Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Clutch Crew Sports. I am Eric, your ranting co-host. I'm glad to be back here hosting another episode. I've had a lot going on in my life, so I haven't been able to be as busy. Connor and Zach have been carrying our NFL videos, our college videos, with our team previews and things like that. So we've been dishing out a lot of content lately. So definitely make sure to check that out if you haven't seen your favorite team yet. We're getting pretty close to finishing the NFL team previews, and we just had a lot of content, so make sure to check that out. And for today's episode, we're this is our second year in a row doing this, but we're gonna preview the 10 teams in the NFL that we think are going to be the most interesting to watch. I'll explain more what I mean about that in a minute. But for now, let me introduce you to the rest of the crew.
What's up, everyone? Zach here. This is when we did this video last year. I was super excited for it, and I still am. This is a fun thing. I'm so glad football season's finally around the corner. But can the Jags just win a preseason game, please? Like, come on. I just want to see the win.
And what's up, guys? It's Connor, the co-host with the most. And yeah, gonna have to flex a little bit here since the Steelers beat the Jags in the preseason. Zach talking about that the Jags can't win a preseason game. We handed you that L. But yeah, I'm excited for this as well. Like Zach said, I'm excited for football season just because it's been so long since I've had any sports to watch. None of us on here really like baseball, so it's been a while since we've had sports to watch.
Well, listen, Connor, if the Jaguars had a kicker, we would have won. So, okay. Anyway.
Well, to be fair, the Steelers also missed a long field goal early in the game. So,
Well,
also if we
didn't, we missed two, we would have won.
Also, if we didn't have Mason Rudolph, you would have never gotten that safety. So.
Oh, well, yeah, I was glad to see him out there. But anyway, enough preseason stuff aside. As you can see on the screen here, Zach's got our top 10 on the screen here for me. And if you didn't see our episode last year, if you're fairly new to the channel, what we mean by this video when we say the top 10 most interesting teams, this doesn't necessarily mean that this is who we think are going to be the 10 best teams. These are just teams that we think are going to be really interesting or really exciting for various reasons. It could be
some of them might suck.
Yeah, some of them might be bad teams. Some of when we say the interesting, it could be teams with new coaches or teams with really dramatic situations, or maybe teams brought in like new like star players. There's all different kinds of reasons as to why we've picked these teams. We all voted and like listed our top 10 teams and had a scoring system and averaged them out. So these 10 teams are going to be based on the averages of the three of us together. So, but yeah, with that being said, let's get right into this here. Connor's going to kick us off with our number 10 team. Connor, tell us the number 10 team and why they're on the list. I think, by the way, Connor is a little excited about this one.
A little bit of a spoiler alert. Number 10 team here is going to be my Pittsburgh Steelers. Always enjoy talking about them. I'm excited to make the preview for them later. But yeah, the reason why I think the Steelers are going to be interesting this year is just because, the Steelers, obviously, Roethlisberger has retired, and, there's the new quarterback situation going on with, Mitchell Trubisky, Kenny Pickett, Mason Rudolph, looking like Mitchell Trubisky is going to start the year, but it definitely is going to be interesting to watch to see, like how long does Trubisky spend in that starting role? Does he start the whole season? If he performs well, then you would think that he would, start the whole season. But, if he starts to struggle, like when or if does Kenny Pickett come in and take over? And the other thing about the Steelers for me that just makes them an interesting team is because, we always talk about these teams in the NFL that are like a quarterback away from competing. I truly believe that this is one of those teams that's like a quarterback away. Like there are some question marks on the O-line, but like the skill position players are great. The defense is one of the best in the league. It's just like if they can get competent quarterback play, I could see this team going a long way. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see where they get taken from there. And if the quarterback play, like if it's average or good or even bad.
Nice, man. I think you did a pretty good job summarizing the Steelers there. Zach, did you have any other thoughts on the Steelers?
No, they not to be that guy, but they didn't make my top 10 list, so I'll be quiet on Pittsburgh.
I think Zach
All
might
right,
still be a little salty about that preseason loss.
well, so Zach, we are going to transition to you here. You're going to have our next team at number 9. Tell us about this team.
Boo! I don't like this team.
Yeah, Connor's not. He likes number 10. He doesn't like number 9.
Yeah. So, people are already thinking, okay, it's one of these 3 teams, but number 9 is going to be the Baltimore Ravens. I think this is a real interesting team this year because like we talked about a few weeks ago, Lamar Jackson's contract situation, how he's the only quarterback from that class that doesn't have a new contract right now. I think there's a lot of pressure on the Ravens to make the playoffs, to have a better year than they did last year. This is a team that had gotten bit by the injury bug really bad last year. They lost a lot of players to injuries that are coming back now. So just from that aspect, we want to see all the guys that were hurt last year. How, do they, stay on track with their careers? Do they never, recover? That's a key thing to watch with the Ravens. They did fire their longtime defensive coordinator, Don Wink Martindale. He's now at the New York Giants. Baltimore's defense, I don't think it's going to be bad or anything, but without Wink as the defensive coordinator there, that is a major change. He'd been with the team for a while. So, how does Lamar Jackson take another step up from being a passer? It seems like he's kind of regressed a little bit these last 2 years, but he led the league in touchdown passes his MVP season. Do we see him, get a resurgence in the passing game? Does he stay healthy? That's a big concern. They had a great draft class. They brought in a bunch of big names from the NFL draft that I'm excited to watch in the NFL now. So lots of reasons to be excited about the Ravens. I think they're going to be a real intriguing team next year.
Yeah, I agree. And they're one of the teams out there that I do really feel like has they've got a chance to go from worst to first in their division. I'm not necessarily predicting that they will, but I definitely think they've got a great chance to do that. And that would be another interesting thing about them. Connor, I know you do hate the Ravens, obviously, as a Steelers fan, but any other thoughts from you on this?
Well, hopefully for me, the only interesting part about the Ravens season is going to be watching the Steelers beat them both times. So.
Oh, man. All right. Well, Connor, we're going to go back to you here. We've got the first 2 teams out of the way. We're moving on to our number 8 most interesting team. Tell us about them and what their key storylines are.
Yeah, so our number 8 most interesting team is going to be the Carolina Panthers. The most interesting thing for them, of course, is obviously, this is going to be similar to the Steelers here and just the quarterback play. They obviously brought in Sam Darnold last year, and he was definitely not up to par. They even brought back Cam Newton for a few games last year, and he still wasn't good either. So definitely seeing how Baker Mayfield, can run this offense and, can we get a full healthy season out of Christian McCaffrey? Is DJ Moore going to take that next step to be a true superstar receiver? Can this Carolina offense finally find its legs and match up to the defense? Because the defense of this Carolina team is also interesting because, it's from what it's been for the past couple of years, there's a lot of young pieces on it. It's one of these defenses that you would classify as above average, but not elite. And this defense really has a chance in my mind to step into that elite territory if their young players can really, take their games to the next level. Like Jeremy Chin, Brian Burns, Derek Brown, JC Horn, those are some of the best young defensive players in the league right now. And it's if all of those guys can, and Shaq Thompson's the established veteran on the team. It's if all of those guys can really step up and take their games to the next level and really get, good things going on the defense, then this could be a top 5 defense. And, at that point, if you have a top 5 defense, then your offense with Baker Mayfield and McCaffrey doesn't need to be, as good as, you would want them to be. It's okay, we can get away with maybe only putting up 25 points a game and we can still win on a consistent basis because we're only giving up 18 points a game. So Definitely interesting there for the Panthers, and they would have also been a little bit more interesting if Matt Corral unfortunately hadn't suffered a season-ending injury, because I would have also liked to have seen if he would have gotten any sort of playing time, depending on like if the Panthers have been really bad or something like that, that if he would have gotten some playing time as well. But unfortunately, we're not going to get to see that this year since he's now done for the season with that Liz Frank injury, the same as ETN's injury. But yeah, there's a lot with the Panthers that's interesting as well.
Yeah, I agree. They're a pretty young team. They definitely have the potential to be a up and coming team. So they're definitely a team that I'll be looking forward to following this season. I'm going to take over with team number 7 here, and that's going to be the Philadelphia Eagles. Shout out to my friend Joseph from Domino's who plays fantasy football with us. This is his team. But I didn't just vote them into the list because of him. They are a team that I really am interested in. They definitely had one of the most active off seasons of any of the teams in the league. They made that huge trade getting AJ Brown. They bolstered their defense by drafting Jordan Davis in the first round and bringing in Hassan Reddick from the Panthers, who we just talked about. This is a team that can definitely get it done on both sides of the ball. I'm also curious to see how Nick Sirianni is going to do, because he's still a pretty young coach. Is he going to be able to elevate his game to help the Eagles get to the next level? You got Devontae Smith, who's in his second year now, and he's looking to take that next step. And kind of like what Connor talked about with the Steelers, being a quarterback away, which the Eagles could be fine. I just don't know how Jalen Hurts is going to do. I have mixed feelings about him, but if he can be that guy, then the Eagles are definitely going to be a team that could be really scary this year. Obviously, but then if he struggles, then it could be a totally completely different situation. So I feel like with there being so many possibilities of where the Eagles could end up by the end of the season, I think they're going to be a very interesting team. Before we go on to Team 6, Zach or Connor, did any of you guys have any other added thoughts about the Eagles you'd like to pitch in?
No, I mean, I think you said it well. AJ Brown, it's going to be interesting to see, just compare sort of the seasons with AJ Brown and Treylon Burks with the Titans. That's pretty much a mano y mano, trade, so seeing how they compare. But yeah, the Eagles were pretty high on my list, if I remember correctly.
Connor,
Yeah, I
anything
remember
from
them
you?
being on. Yeah, I remember them being on my list too, and I think the main thing for them that's interesting for me is just to see like where they finished, because they're in a really vulnerable division in the NFC East. It's one of those situations that in my mind I could see, like, if the Eagles can put everything together, I could see them easily just running away with this division. But if they don't put everything together, it'd be interesting to see what goes on in the NFC East if all the teams are bad, or if the Eagles are like fighting with the Cowboys and they both have like 500 records or something. Like, just the NFC East in general is always a fun division to watch, because you never know if there's going to be like a stinker team coming out of there or something, given just how weak the division is as a whole.
Very nice, very nice. A lot of good thoughts there, guys. I like that. I didn't think about the AJ Brown to Treylon Burks comparison. That'll be interesting to monitor over the upcoming seasons as well. So I like that. All right, guys. So now we're going to move on to team number 6. I know there's a longtime viewer of ours in particular who's going to be happy about this one. Connor, take this one away for us.
Yeah, so at number 6, shout out to Caleb from Brody Sports Talk. We're going to be talking about the Green Bay Packers here. The reason that the Green Bay Packers are definitely interesting, normally you wouldn't think that a team that, finished near the top of their conference and had an MVP caliber player would be necessarily that interesting, because you think what you're going to get from them. But the Packers are obviously interesting this year just because of, there's a huge main reason why on the offensive side of the ball, Devontae Adams got traded to the Las Vegas Raiders. So this is going to be the first season in quite a while that Rodgers is not going to have Devontae Adams by his side. And, to a lot of people, Adams is arguably the best wide receiver in the league. He also lost Marquez Valdez-Scantling to the Kansas City Chiefs. So, the top two receivers for this Packers team are gone now. And the Packers didn't really do much in the draft to really replace them. They had opportunities to take some of the upper receivers like Chris Olave or, some of the other like Treylon Burks and guys like that. They went out and they got who was that guy that was it Christian Watson? Was that the dude that they drafted?
Yep.
Yeah, so they drafted Christian Watson, who was definitely on the lower end of the receivers. And Rodgers' top two targets now are going to be Alan Lazard, who he's been there a while, but he's definitely not a like wide receiver one caliber player. And Mr. Man of Glass himself, Sammy Watkins, on the other side of the ball. So definitely a lot of lack of weapons there for Rodgers. So it's gonna be interesting to see if he can really keep up his MVP form. We had the last episode we did the Ask Twitter. We ran a poll on this topic about how we thought Rodgers would perform without Devontae Adams, and the majority of people thought that he would still do really well, but like not necessarily play at the MVP level. So it's gonna be interesting to see if he can get back in the MVP level, and also just Aaron Rodgers is getting up there in age, and it's just going to be interesting to see, can the Packers finally just get over that NFC Championship hump? Because it seems like every year we're talking about the Packers. It's like all those memes come out every year about the cycle of the Packers. Like Aaron Rodgers has an MVP level season, then losing the NFC Championship game, then don't go out and get any weapons for Rodgers in the offseason. But then Rodgers has another MVP season, but then they lose the NFC title game again. So definitely going to be exciting to see. And also, I just want to see this defense. The defense was actually much improved last year, although they did lose to Darius Smith in the offseason. So it's also going to be fun to watch Jair Alexander coming back from injury. So definitely a lot of things to watch this year for the Packers, but Rodgers being at the forefront of it.
Very nice, man. Very nice.
I want
to say something, Zach.
Yeah, I just wanted to add in, obviously, the end of what Connor just said. Aaron Rodgers, number one reason why this is the most interesting, or the sixth most interesting team. But I just think he's already calling out the young receivers, running the wrong routes and stuff. He's already shown his frustration. It's going to be interesting to see how he handles the season off the field as well. There's always storylines with him being weird off the field. He's got a lot of weird things going on, Jeopardy last year, obviously, but just all the stories that come out about him. How's he going to be as a leader? How's him and LaFleur, the relationship now that he's gotten this contract extension with the Packers? He's, proven with the two MVPs. Like, what happens to Jordan Love too, who's had a really good preseason? Do they somehow trade Jordan Love as a team's quarterback goes down? What sort of price would they get for that? Would they want to do it? Is this his last year? Does he retire after this year if they win the Super Bowl or something crazy? It's just, you never know with Aaron Rodgers. You just never know. So that's what makes them interesting to me.
For sure, man. Yeah, the Packers have a lot going on. I'm definitely excited to see how they do. I'll be looking forward to following them as well. I'm going to take over here and take over for the number 5 team now, and it's going to be another guy like we literally just talked about with Devontae Adams going to the Las Vegas Raiders. We've got the Raiders here at number 5, and obviously, Devontae Adams is a big part of what makes them so interesting. I mean, they already had Darren Waller and Hunter Renfrow, who are both very good players. And then you add in arguably the most talented wide receiver in the league and Devontae Adams. I think that's going to make the Raiders offense very exciting to watch. You got Josh Jacobs at running back, who's motivated to get a new contract, so he seems like he's locked in. And then even on the defensive side of the ball, bringing in Chandler Jones, all pro caliber pass rusher, to pair along with Max Crosby. I mean, they're going to be one of the most lethal pass rushing duos in the whole league. The Raiders just have a lot going on for them, and another thing that makes them interesting for me as well is just with the division they play in, how are they going to do in the loaded AFC West? This is a team, I think, if they were in most of the other divisions in football, there would be a good chance that people would easily pick them to win the division. But being in the AFC West, I think people aren't so sure. So how did the Raiders do against their stiff competition that they're going to go up against? But I had the Raiders pretty high on my list. They're definitely one of the teams I'm most excited about, and I guess just also as well, with Josh McDaniels coming in, he's a very interesting personality. He had a failed coaching stint with the Broncos before, and then he's just been kind of, he rode Bill Belichick's coattails for a while, being, a coordinator for them in New England. But, now he's stepping out on his own again as a head coach. Like, is he going to be able to get the job done? There's just a lot of different storylines and a lot of, just a lot of interesting things going on for the Raiders this year. So I'm very excited about them. Any thoughts on this, guys, before we go to the next one?
No, I think you hit it on the head pretty well with the Raiders for sure. McDaniels and Adams especially. I think also really just watching Derek Carr in my mind, like he's always kind of been considered one of these like possibly like good but not great quarterbacks. And now that he's got, all these weapons around him, it's like, okay, like it's, in a lot of ways, like put up or shut up time to be like, prove that you're a great quarterback now that you have all these weapons.
Yeah. And I guess the other thing too is also, the fact that him and Devontae Adams played together in college. So you have that whole reunion thing going on there. So that's also another storyline that's interesting. So there's a lot going on with the Raiders. I'm definitely excited to see how they do. Zach is actually going to take over the next two teams here. He'll start with number 4, and then Connor, I can fill in for a second, let him catch his breath before he does number 3. But Zach, who do we have at number 4 on our list of interesting teams?
Yeah, sticking out with the West Coast here, teams, I'm going to say the number 4 team is the San Francisco 49ers. I'm pretty sure they were high up on this list last year. They're one of these teams that in our eyes is still a top 10 most interesting team 2 years in a row. Just a lot of storylines this offseason. You have the trade request by Deebo Samuel, but then he ends up re-signing. I'm curious to see, does his role in the offense change at all? He was very vocal this offseason that, he wanted to be, and he really wasn't paid much more than any of these other guys like, DK Metcalf and all the other receiver contracts out there. It wasn't like his was, 1.5 times, the most. So I want to see, because he was vocal about, how valuable he was as a running back, he didn't want to have all those extra hits pile up, shorten the length of his career because of that. So I want to see, does their offense change a little bit where, like we saw in the playoffs, Deebo was getting 8 to 10 carries, in addition to his wide receiver duties. He was carrying the football 8 to 10 times, which, is a lot for one player to have to do. So I want to see, does his role in the offense change? But the biggest thing, Trey Lance, how does he look? He hasn't played football in like 3 years or something like that, aside from some games, in the NFL, which both games he played in, he got injured in. So how was his health? That was the biggest reason why they moved on from Jimmy G, was his lack of availability. Do we see that again from Trey Lance? Just how does he play football after such a long break? And obviously being from North Dakota State, he's never gone up against anything remotely similar to the NFL competition. But on top of that, this is a team that could make a Super Bowl run, so this isn't, a Carolina Panthers situation with a new quarterback, trying to see how they're going to do. This is a team with legit Super Bowl expectations with essentially a rookie quarterback. So how different does the offense look? If Jimmy G ends up going to another team, does he ball out and make them look bad? Because all Jimmy G ever did, despite his play sometimes, is win. He won them a lot of games in the regular season and in the playoffs. So, does Trey Lance play better than Jimmy G, but the team not win? The defense, Nick Bosa's looking to get paid. There's a lot of guys on this team looking to get paid. So this is really a major, major year for San Francisco. And just try and see, was it all worth it? The trade for the draft pick to move up and get Trey Lance, there's a lot riding on this season for everybody in San Francisco.
Yeah, that was nice, man. That was very good. And I like especially the part talking about, if Trey Lance is bad, like they may not be good, but at the same time, like they are a team that it still could very well contend for a Super Bowl. And I think that's what makes them a very interesting team. I think we all had them in the top 5 on our list, so that's why they're up here so high. So, Connor, do you have anything else to add before Zach does the next one?
Yeah, I was just going to say too, I think really interesting is that, you mentioned if, like if Jimmy G goes somewhere else, does he ball out or something? I think I'm just interested to see like how the Jimmy G saga ends. Like, is it going to end? Are they going to somehow find a trade partner for him? Are they just going to end up releasing him? Because they would save a lot of money if they just ended up releasing him. So I'm definitely interested to see how that whole saga comes to an end because, at some point or another, in my mind, there's no way that he's going to stick around on the team. So, like, how are they finally going to, get rid of him, so to speak?
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point, man.
Yep.
So, Zach, we gave you a quick breather there, but let us know who we have as our number 3 most interesting team.
Yep. So going from the West Coast to the East Coast, number 3 most interesting team is the Miami Dolphins. So, similar to a lot of teams that we've talked about, Philly, Baltimore, to name some, the Raiders. This is a team that's gone all in. This is what I really enjoyed about this offseason, was seeing all these teams go essentially all in this year. There's always going to be those teams that, go to the rebuild side of things, but the teams that put all their chips to the table, make the trades for star players, that sort of stuff, new coaches, all these things. These are the teams that I always think are the most interesting. Miami did that, I think, more than anybody else by bringing in Tyreek Hill, very, very accomplished receiver with the Chiefs, won a Super Bowl with them, has, obviously known for being the fastest receiver in the NFL. So how does he look, Tyreek Hill on a personal level? How does he look in a Miami uniform and how does he play? Just, this has been a very good team the last few years that hasn't made the playoff. They've always came up a game or two short, but can they get past the Buffalo Bills? They've had no problem beating the Patriots in recent times, or the Jets, but can they get past the Bills? Because this is, I think, the biggest challenge the Bills have had the past 2 years now in their division is this year's Dolphins team. Tua, obviously, this is, a big year for him because the Dolphins could, move on from him very easily next year. Who knows? They could bring in Tom Brady next year. We don't know. But new head coach, all the, the scandal that was going on with the tampering where they lost picks, there's just so much stuff. You just I don't even have time to name off all the stuff that's going on with the Dolphins. New players bringing in, the praise, that Tyreek Hill's given Tua, saying he's more accurate than Patrick Mahomes, like the Brian Flores lawsuit against the team, how his exit was handled this offseason, their coaching search and everything. It's just could go on and on with all the things going on with Miami. So I'll take a step back and see if anyone else wants to talk about something specific.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, there is a lot going on. Definitely a lot going on in Miami this year. So I don't think I have too much else to add, though, before we move on. Connor, how about you?
No, I think Zach covered. I think, like you said, it's just the main thing is the offense. Like, it's put up or shut up time for Tua. So, if he doesn't perform this year with all these weapons, then he gonna be gone.
Yeah, Roger Goodell thought it was good news for Tua when they drafted Austin Jackson, but really got good news for Tua when they brought in Tyreek Hill. So, although with Tyreek Hill saying Tua is more accurate than Mahomes, like, is this turning into another Antonio Brown kind of thing? I don't know. Like that was a crazy comment. But anyway, we've got two teams left here. Going on to the team number 2. Connor's going to talk about this one. So, Connor, take it away.
Yeah, so at number 2 here, another shout out to Brody Sports Talk. Shout out to Derek Rusnick from Brody Sports Talk. This is his favorite team, the Denver Broncos. And, this is definitely, we mentioned this a couple times in this video, the whole concept of a team that's a quarterback away. Well, a lot of people saw the Broncos as one of those teams, and now they've got their quarterback. They traded for Russell Wilson during the offseason. This was already a team that coming into this season had a top 5 defense. They've got all these young weapons on offense. You've got Javonte Williams in the backfield, who's going to be pairing with Melvin Gordon. You've got Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton in the receiving game. They did unfortunately lose Tim Patrick to a season-ending injury during training camp, but this is a team that is loaded with talent, and kind of similar to the Raiders. If you take this team and you put them in any other division, you'd think, oh, okay, this team, they're going to win the division, or at least get second place in the division and get a wild card spot and make it into the playoffs. But the thing that makes it so interesting is the fact that just like the Raiders, they play in the AFC West, which is totally stacked with talent. Any one of those 4 teams between the Chargers, Chiefs, Broncos, and Raiders could win this division. And it's going to be interesting to watch and see, like, all right, how does Russell Wilson do with a new team? He had some struggles in his last few seasons in Seattle, but in my mind, a lot of that was more so just the fact that Seattle didn't have a run game or an offensive line at all. The Broncos, they should have both. Like, their offensive line is a little bit questionable, but they should have a good run game. They should have better protection for him. He's not going to be running for his life all the time. And, just it's going to be all about competing against these other AFC West teams. And, the Broncos, they're not really getting a lot of the respect that some of these other AFC West teams are getting. I'm seeing a lot of these previews for the AFC West, a lot of them, when people are predicting the division winners, no one that I see is picking the Broncos. They're all usually picking the Chargers or the Chiefs, and the Broncos are, kind of always down in 3rd or 4th in the division. So in my mind, that's definitely going to really motivate them. You've got this really good team, and you see all these sports writers that are predicting you to finish in the lower part of your division, even though it is a stacked division. You're getting picked to finish in the lower part of the division. You're getting picked to miss the playoffs. In my mind, I think it's really going to light a fire in their bellies. And the Broncos, they really want to make it to the postseason. They really want to be able to, finally get over and end the whole thing about, we haven't had a good team since Peyton Manning left. And, we haven't had a quarterback since Peyton Manning left. So the Broncos are definitely, for sure, in my mind, one of the most interesting teams. I know they were, pretty much them and our number 1 team were top 2 on all of our lists. So the Broncos are definitely going to be an interesting team to watch. And I'm excited because I get to go to one of their games this year. I'm going to their Week 18 game against the Chargers. So that's another interesting thing for me about them.
Yeah, I'm a little jealous that you get to go to Mile High Stadium. I would like to go there sometime, but yeah, definitely good points there. Zach, anything from you on the Broncos before I take the last one?
No, it's just very interesting. I think all Broncos fans are like super excited about this team this year. I think they're, they've dealt with so much bad quarterback play the last few years that I think they're just super hyped up to see what Russ does for them.
Let Russ cook.
For sure. Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to take over for the number 1 most interesting team here. I think it's pretty obvious. The Jacksonville Jaguars. No, just kidding.
Get off the stage.
I know last year when we had the Jags as the second most interesting, people might have thought there was a little bias there with me and Zach being Jags fans. But, I mean, look at what happened with the Jags last year. Were they not one of the most interesting teams in the league? So,
weren't wrong about that.
Yeah. So, obviously, the number 1 most interesting team, I think we were fairly, like, maybe not completely unanimous, but pretty close to being unanimous on this, is going to be the Cleveland Browns. I mean, obviously, there's the whole, thing with Deshaun Watson, but, really it even started before Deshaun Watson because it was almost like they basically gave Baker Mayfield the middle finger, like, but not giving him a contract extension or even offering him one. And, and then there was all the talk about they wanted a grown up at quarterback and all this stuff. And then I think that, obviously that upset Baker even more. And, and then the whole thing with them bringing in Watson was really interesting because seemed like they were a contender to land him, but then they weren't. And it seemed like it was more so like one of those NFC South teams that was going to get him. But then out of nowhere, like the trade was announced that Cleveland had brought him in. And of course, there was still the whole deal with his, suspension looming, like what was going to happen. And of course, the Browns gave up like 3 first-round draft picks to acquire him, which is obviously very risky. And now it's, recently been, brought down that Watson will be suspended for 11 games, so missing over half of the season. So that's definitely going to hurt the Browns' chances. But I'm just kind of curious to see, like now that Baker Mayfield has been traded to the Panthers, they don't have him anymore, and Watson suspended 11 games. How's this team going to do the rest of the season? Jacoby Brissett's been a spot starter here and there. He's never been a great quarterback, but the Browns are a team though that still they've got a lot of talent, on this roster. They still have one of the best running back tandems in the league, but then that brings up another problem though, because Kareem Hunt wants to be traded. It seems like the Browns don't have any interest in doing that, but that's just even more drama with Hunt wanting to be traded. But still, with him and Nick Chubb together, I mean, that's an amazing running back duo. They were trying to go all in by acquiring Amari Cooper from Dallas. They still got Myles Garrett, who's one of the best pass rushers. Denzel Ward, a great corner. Like, they've got a lot of great pieces on this team. So it's going to be interesting to see, how this Browns team, does without Deshaun Watson. Do they have a chance of, still possibly winning just enough games to at least contend for a playoff spot by the time Watson gets back? And if so, does Watson, have what it takes to get them there? He looked really bad in the preseason game against the Jags, and he's been away from football a long time. So I don't know. I mean, the Browns are just really interesting. But I figure what I'll do to end the show here, Zach is, over the last couple seasons, he's definitely been the highest on the Browns out of the 3 of us. So I'd like Zach to add any final comments on the Browns, and then Zach can close out the show for us.
All right. Thanks for doing that. Yeah. So like Eric said, I was the most high on the Browns. I kind of not predicted their playoff season that they had, but I was, high on them going into that year. I was high on them going last year, real high on them. They disappointed. But, it's just, I've lost faith in the Browns this offseason with the Watson thing. I mean, I'm not saying Watson is, I'm not saying that Baker Mayfield is better than Watson as a quarterback, but I mean, they had something there. Like I said at the end of the year last year, Baker played hurt, and it obviously hurt him in their eyes because he was playing injured and didn't look very good. And when, they obviously went too far with the Watson talks. They had to know that saying something like that was going to piss him off. And then bringing in Watson, I mean, I just think from a whole NFL standpoint, this Watson story has just been a big, divisive thing for all these fans. I feel bad for the Browns fans having to try and defend Watson, but I know that, like, it's very, very rare that you see fans of a team for 50 plus years, and now they're saying they're no longer fans of the team when Watson plays, like, in week 12. So just from a fan aspect, I mean, it's going to be crazy. Obviously when Watson comes back, he's going to hear it from all these, road games and stuff. But just watching the fan, because they're obviously fans are a big part of the league as well. And, no fan base is going to be put in a more difficult situation than Browns fans are. So, they're definitely fitting to be number 1 on this list. I don't think they're going to have a good season. I think they're a good team, but I just think there's just too much going on right now with this team for them to meet expectations.
I got you, man. Connor, any final thoughts? We've covered your other favorite team, the Ravens. Now this is your other favorite team, the Browns. Any thoughts on the Browns here?
Well, we missed out on covering my other favorite team, my other favorite team, the Cincinnati Bengals. But, yeah, it's just the Browns are a total, like, dumpster fire of an organization right now. And I mean, I'm just laughing at the fact that, you definitely know that the NFL is a business, given that they decided to hand out an 11-game suspension to Watson, which conveniently puts his return in a road game at Houston in Week 13. I'm not sure there was any business decisions or money signs going on in their head when they made that decision, but
totally not, dude. It was just all based on the evidence that it should be that many games specifically.
So, yeah, no, it's definitely interesting to. I mean, it seems like nothing can ever go right for Cleveland. It's like as soon as something goes right for them, they all of a sudden just like something like this happens to them. So, I'm happy to see it from a Steelers fan aspect, but I know that those fans are it's so bad for them. You never want to see something like this happening for your team. So, and who knows? They could do really well. Maybe Brissett just has to be some kind of a game manager, but I don't think it's going to happen for them, honestly.
Gotcha. Well, guys, this has been a fun episode to do. Let us know in the comments down below, like who you think is the most interesting team in the league going into the season. If there's any team that's not in the top 10 that you think should have been in there, let us know. We'd love to hear your thoughts on it. And like I mentioned in the intro, we're getting close to being done with our NFL season previews. We only have a few teams left, so pretty soon we'll have all 32 of them out, and you can binge them all if you want. Connor's been dropping he's been taking up the football season for NFL and college officially starts. Literally every NFL and college team will be previewed. So we've been putting in the work on this. So for those of you that have subscribed recently, we thank you for that. And if you've been following along but haven't subscribed yet, please do. We'd be really grateful for that. So thanks again for tuning in, guys. Zach, give us our closing line here.
Yep. Remember, guys, out of everything you do this week, just remember, be clutch.
Bye.
Peace.